Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a wonderful episode of the Duck Zone. We are almost at the midway point of the NFL season, and college football is quickly wrapping up. So we're just going to jump right on into it. A lot of storylines, a lot of games. It's a full slate of games this week. No one on a bye. Week 8, but let's go back to Week 7. James, I know you have some storylines you want to talk about it. I'm just going to jump it right over to you.
Cool. Yeah, I was a little under the weather this past weekend, so I feel like I was like in and out of watching college and NFL games. So I have an idea of like what I saw, obviously for the most part, but I feel like I was in a haze. So, anyways, going back to Thursday, um, Sean Payton crushes the Saints in his return to New Orleans, and unfortunately for Saints fans, they got to witness. I shouldn't say unfortunately. Saints fans got to witness Drew Brees' intro into the Hall of Fame, or the Saints Hall of Fame. So Sean Payton definitely probably ruined that night for the Saints fans, but at least they got to see their beloved quarterback at halftime get his banner raised to their Ring of Honor or however they do it in New Orleans. Jags should move to London full time because they clearly just can't lose in London. They stayed there and won 2 games in a row in London. So, there's always been clamoring. Were they 1-1?
1-1. They split. But they look better in London.
Yeah, I clearly did my research.
That's the big thing is they always
That's
look
true.
better in London. So
Yeah, there was clamoring for them to leave Peterson behind in London, but he got the win in their second game. So, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely been a topic of consideration for the NFL for a long time to bring a team over to London. So, sorry, Jacksonville. Maybe that'll eventually be your team because regardless, I know that you said they went 1-1. They have a good record overall in London. Giants, on the other hand, do not look good, and they need to make the quarterback switch. They did in last week's game. Daniel Jones was removed for Drew Lock. But I think it's time to just make that switch full time because Daniel Jones is not the guy. And they need to either A, give Drew Lock a chance and let him know that, if you do well, this is your team. If not, then we're going back in the draft. But Daniel Jones is not the guy.
I think the big thing with the Giants,
Lions are the best team in the NFC.
Sorry,
Oh,
let's
go
say
ahead.
the one thing with the Giants though too is it doesn't matter who's your quarterback. Their O line is awful. I mean, that Eagles game last week, there was times where it was 1 second and he was dead. So I think some of it was some of last week's removing him had to do with the fact that the Philly defensive line just destroyed the Giants O line. The Giants O line is maybe one of the worst in the league at this point. I don't think it matters who you're going to throw back there. Like quarterbacks going to get killed.
That's true. And some say that the Giants O line is still getting pressured by the Eagles as we speak. That's how bad they were. And don't mind the dogs that are barking in the background.
Amazon.
The Lions are the best team in the NFC. I don't think there's any question about that. Sean, do you have anything
Nope.
to
Good.
say on that? So the Browns lost Watson to karma, or some could say karma, after all the clamoring we've made about Deshaun Watson. There finally is going to be a quarterback change, and Jameis is going to get that opportunity, but not to the expense of Watson's Achilles. The Commanders are apparently just legit no matter who they throw at quarterback. We'll see if Jaden Daniels can play this week, but I forgot Marcus Mariota went to the Commanders, but they still threw up 40-plus points.
I think some of that also has to do with the fact that Carolina's defense is awful. So, love Marcus Mariota, but some of it's got to do with Carolina is just that bad.
Are the Chiefs ever going to lose? Because it sure doesn't seem like they are. Whether they squeak games out, whether it's Mahomes' poor play, and they still are winning. Yeah, I don't know. I made a poor choice to pick against the Chiefs last week. I will not be doing that again. Also, big news for the Chiefs, and I'll let you go on after this. because it is pretty big news for the receiving core. They traded for DeAndre Hopkins. So, Sean, are we going to see the, I guess, reemergence of DeAndre Hopkins? How much is he going to impact this team?
I think it's going to help. It's not going to hurt. I think it's pretty phenomenal what the Chiefs have been able to do through 6 games. They haven't played well. They haven't lost a game. They find a way to win. The schedule the rest of the way is not difficult. They've got 4 games remaining on their schedule that you circle and be like, that could be tough. I mean, Houston at Buffalo, um, the Denver twice, which rivalry game that could be tough. I feel like I'm missing one Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh might be tough too, especially around Christmas. Uh, but this Kansas City team is really good. I feel like they're kind of going to be on this coast train. They know they're going to make the playoffs at this point. Mahomes has been not great, but acquiring Hopkins is not going to hurt. They're not going to ask him to do too much because they're already winning with this great defense. And while it feels like they've lost all their weapons, everyone that puts that Chiefs jersey on right now feels like they are a weapon. So I think it's only an upgrade, and until they lose, this is one of those teams that shockingly, it makes no sense, could go 17-0. Doesn't make a lot of sense because of the defense.
Yeah, and and re-signing Kareem Hunt, he's been kind of a nice band-aid until they wait for potentially for Pacheco to come back. I still don't know when and if he will. I think reports have said he most likely will, but he did suffer a pretty what we thought was a serious injury. So, but you just plug a guy in like Kareem Hunt, and he just apparently can just rumble on in for like they haven't missed a beat. So,
well, the big thing
yeah,
about
this is kind of a weird year for them.
the big thing about it as well is because they continuously win. They're telling Pacheco, "Hey, just wait to get healthy fully. There's no rush." So
Right.
it's like a dude. Yeah, just make sure you're good for the playoffs. If that means you come back week 12, 14, let's just get you to 100, and we're gonna be good.
Yeah, that's the thing is like they don't need to rush him back because their defense is elite and guys like Kareem Hunt can just come
Let's
back from the
go.
dead. And San Fran cannot catch an injury break. We unfortunately saw the end of Ayuk's season, tore his ACL and MCL. Debo, I think he played like 4 snaps, and then he left the game, and we've come to find out that he had pneumonia and I shouldn't laugh, had pneumonia and was in the hospital. So and even I don't know, Jawan Jennings, he's even banged up. So they're one of their healthiest receivers on the roster is Ricky Pearsall, and he started the year with getting shot. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they're in a bind. I believe they're bottom of the division, if not tied with the Rams at the bottom of the division. They're on life support. I mean, luckily the Seattle's only 4-3, so they're not like out of it. But yeah, bad dealing of cards for San Fran this year.
Yeah, the biggest thing that's saving them at this point really is the fact that they're in the NFC West, which is a weak division. You got the Rams that are not very good, looking like they're going to start selling off pieces. Arizona still trying to figure out who they are, and a Seattle team that is really Jekyll and Hyde from week to week. So this team, we're going to talk about it here in 20 some minutes. The Dallas San Francisco game is going to be fascinating because you got two teams that are really, really kind of on last life support. Dallas being 3-3, San Francisco going to be 3-4 going into the game. San Francisco can't go to 3-5 off the bye. If they go to 4-4, it sounds crazy, but I think San Francisco, given the fact of the amount of guys that they've missed, key guys they've missed throughout the season, I think they'll be pretty happy being 4-4 in the division that they're in. But we'll talk more about that game later on.
We saw Sunday night the Russell Wilson comeback. Yeah, I guess he still has a little bit left in the tank. He definitely looked a little shaky in the first couple series, and then all of a sudden just turned it on, and that Steelers offense looked pretty damn good. Najee Harris is actually running the ball halfway decently. They got Jalen Warren back, so that's a pretty good, 1-2 punch with the run game. But I wouldn't say Justin Fields was like bad. He was managing the games fine. Steelers have been winning, so it's interesting that they kind of made the move. But maybe it was the right move because Wilson kind of looked like his old self.
Mhm.
And lastly, we saw Lamar and the Ravens. I know they only won by 10, but that was a pretty demoralizing victory, or excuse me, demoralizing loss, I should say, for the Bucks. Because while they did make it somewhat a little bit of a comeback, um, their season's basically over, and it's hanging by an ankle. Or excuse me, by a thread. Sorry, Chris Godwin, but that injury didn't look good. Mike Evans was removed from the game. The Bucks are, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play this next week. I mean, you can't go into a game losing your top two receivers, one being Chris Godwin, who was, I believe, leading the league in, I want to say, receptions. And yeah, that just can't be a good feeling. Like, going in, and whether you're a fan or whether you're a part of the team, I mean, talk about just a really shitty situation that was humming just even a couple weeks ago. It was like, wow, Tampa Bay looks like one of these. They could be a contender. Baker's playing MVP like football, and now it's like, boop, they just fell off a cliff. So
Yeah, this is kind of one of those things, though. Todd Boyles, like, literally should be immediately put on the hot seat for this. You're down 20, I think it was. It might have been 20 something, with about 6 minutes to go, and that game was over. Like, Baltimore could do anything. Baltimore, if they wanted to, they basically put the brakes on at the beginning of the fourth quarter for the most part. They proved they could have thrown 65 points up on you. What the hell are you doing? Like, you're going to lose. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, Godwin got hurt on a meaningless play with 50 seconds to go. What are you doing? You've already lost Evans in the game. That's a move where you lose your locker room because it's just like, this is dumb. And like now Tampa Bay, we're looking at a team that, all right, we think this team can win the division, to now this team may not win a game for a few weeks. I mean, it's a drastic thing. You literally lost your two best players in the same game, and one was just by being stupid. Like, this is why you pull guys. This is why, and I get you play it to the whistle, but the exact same time, you can't put guys in riskful situations, and that was a silly, stupid situation. And guys are going to get hurt. It's the NFL, but you got to make decisions that are smart for going forward. They were never going to win that game. Like, it was never going to happen. It was 6 minutes to go down 24. Like, it wasn't going to happen. Just stupid.
yeah, I agree with you to an extent. I mean, I agree with you in that, like, why is Godwin out there? But like you said, injuries can happen at any time. Like, I don't think we'd be talking about this if Godwin got hurt in the first or second quarter. Obviously,
like, the Evans
situation is everything.
Yeah.
Evans is different, yeah. But Godwin, that was kind of a freak thing. I mean, obviously the fans are going to just go hard at Bulls. I don't blame Bulls necessarily for not pulling him. I mean, like I said, they ended up losing by 10, and say they score and get an onside kick. I mean, like, we've seen crazier stuff happen, but yeah, not the best look. But I understand why he was out there. I mean, it's guys typically, like, it takes a lot for an NFL. I mean, especially Godwin, he's not going to be asking to come out of the game. So,
Yeah.
but that's where, as maybe a head coach, you need to just go up to him and be like, "Look, bud, I know your stats matter. I know you want to get a couple more catches, but we're not going to we're not going to win this game. So let's just take it easy.
When you're down 42, what was like 42-18, it says like, all right, you got to go on and play into the next week, because right now I just looked down on it. We'll talk about it in a second. I mean, Tampa Bay is playing Atlanta. I know it's one guy, but at least if you had Godwin in the rotation, Evans is still out. you're like, okay, this offense is still going to hum. Now you're in a situation where you got Baker and basically a bunch of rookies, and now no one's on that board. So
Yep.
was that? Oh, that
That's
was
all I
it.
got.
That was the last one.
Those are my notes.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna jump right into the games then. I'll be honest with you, 16 games. I think this is one of the weaker slates of the season. A lot of games, pretty lopsided, but we're going to still go through every single game and give our opinions. We're going to start with the Thursday night game, which I actually think is a pretty good one. Minnesota playing the Rams. Could this be Cooper Kupp's last game as a Ram? Who are you picking?
Yeah, this one should at least be a little more fun now that we know that the injury designation is off Cooper Cup, so he's definitely playing in the game. Puka Nakua, I think the jury's still out. Um, but with that being said, I'm going Vikings. I think they played the Lions really well, and I think the Vikings are still a really good team. And I want to, one player can't just immediately change a game. But if there is one player to change a game, it's Cooper Cup. But I still like the Vikings on the road.
I'm actually going to take the Rams. No team has won off of their game against Detroit. Or is that true? I think that's pretty close. They all the teams that come off the week of playing Detroit just come out completely beat up. That's the big way of putting it. It's either they're winless or they're close to winless. But I'm going to take the Rams. I think Cooper Cup has a good game. LA is the sports capital of the world. A lot going on this week there. This game got the World Series on Friday. Lakers are playing against the Suns. It's going to be a chaotic weekend in LA, and I think this is a good way of jumping it off. I get the Rams here. Let's move to Sunday. And first game on Sunday, we're going to cover Philadelphia going to Cincinnati, taking on the Bengals.
Philly. Why can I not find my notes? Oh, there they are. I got the Eagles. Bengals have looked better. I think Philly's starting to kind of put their foot down as, we really are a good team. And to me, Saquon Barkley is the difference maker. So I like Philly on the road.
I got Philly as well. This is a weird thing to say about a divisional game, but could be a stinker. Baltimore playing against Cleveland. You're going to Cleveland.
Yeah, this one's pretty easy. I talked about the Ravens being a legit contender, and that doesn't stop here. Browns maybe offensively will look a little better with Jameis under center, but they're still a long ways away. So give me the Ravens in that rushing attack on the road.
I'll take Baltimore as well. Not much to add there. Tennessee, basically trading off all their guys today. Tennessee heading to Detroit to play on the Lions.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who plays at quarterback. Rudolph, even though the Titans have never really looked good, I would say Rudolph, at least they looked somewhat manageable. But regardless if it's Levis or Rudolph, they're not winning in Detroit. So Lions at home.
Yeah, I got Detroit as well. Nothing to add there. Arizona heading to Miami. Looks like Miami's going to have Tua back, or at least it's leaning that direction. Who do you got in this Arizona-Miami matchup?
I'm actually taking the Cardinals. Their defense has been playing really well, and I think people are just hearing that Tua's going to start and immediately is thinking, oh, the Dolphins' offense is just back to being a juggernaut. I want to see it first before I believe it. The Cardinals' offense is interesting. They don't quite pepper the guys you'd think they should be, like the Michael Wilsons and Marvin Harrisons. They haven't really been having great games. They're kind of winning off grit and their defense. Unfortunately, they lost Dennis Gardeck to the season, or to the year. He's out for the year, which sucks for the Cardinals. But, yeah, I'm just kind of banking on Kyler Murray somehow squeaking out a win. I'm not going to say it's going to be by a lot by any means, obviously, on the road. But, yeah, I like the Cardinals.
I'm going to take Arizona as well, actually. I had some question marks with Miami before Tua even got hurt. I think a lot of the league has kind of caught up to Mike McDaniel's schemes here. That kind of started late last year and has kind of carried over. into this season. I know they haven't had a quarterback the last 4 or 5 weeks here, but week one they got rescued by Tyreek Hill a little bit, and week two as well. Um, I think the league has caught on to the Dolphins story and their speed. So I'm going to take Arizona. I expect Tua to be a little rusty as well. Jets. This is probably
And
the
look
worst
for
game.
James Conner to have a pretty big game too.
Yeah, I can totally see that happening. Potentially, this is an awful game. The Jets going to New England. The Jets, as bad as they've been, are favored by 8. I mean, that tells you the story on how bad New England is.
Yeah, I like the Jets on the road. Patriots look better with Drake May under center, but they just don't have enough guys. And the Jets have guys. So another week of practice with Rodgers and Adams. Um, Garrett Wilson had a really bad drop that I
Yeah,
think led to a. If it wasn't a pick six, it was obviously an interception. But
yeah,
I just think Rodgers has just a little more pedigree. Um, and the Jets are in win now mode, whereas the Patriots are still in rebuild mode. So I like the Jets on the road.
yeah. I'm taking the Jets too. I don't have much to add on that one. Atlanta, I'll say this though: the Jets lose this one. Oh my God. Atlanta heading to Tampa Bay. We've kind of already addressed it a little bit, but who do you got in this NFC South matchup?
I like the Falcons. They're just it's a war of attrition typically in the NFL when you start getting to the latter weeks, and the Falcons are healthy, and the Bucks aren't. So I like the Falcons.
Yep, pretty much nailed all my points on that one. I have nothing to add. Atlanta for me wins that one. Green Bay heading to Jacksonville. Green Bay winning that thriller last week against Minnesota. By the way, let me just add this. I forgot to mention this. I don't know how I forgot to mention this. That NFC North loaded. Just Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Chicago. Oh my God, best division in football right now. Going forward, Green Bay at
Yeah,
Jacksonville. Who do you got?
I like Green Bay. That receiving core, I swear they just rotate in and out, and someone different, pops up and does something. We saw Romeo Dubs, however you pronounce it, have a pretty solid game last week. Jaden Reed had kind of a clunker, but when you have Wicks, Watson, Dubes, and Reed, I mean, you can just kind of rotate it in. Then you have Josh Jacobs behind your own line running the ball. He's starting to kind of ramp it up a little bit. Jordan Love's legit. Um, and the Jaguars aren't in London, so they're not going to win. So Packers on the road.
Yeah, I've got the Green Bay as well. This is beginning to feel a lot like that Super Bowl team in 2011, where they just had a bunch of guys and they were all super young and they didn't really knew what they knew. This is a feeling very much like this Green Bay team. Is they're winning games. They're going to make their way into the playoffs. They're going to lose some games throughout the year, but they're young. They're super talented, and it just feels like it was the same thing with that Super Bowl team. They had like 5 receivers that year. They had no number one yet, and it was just like a rotation. I'm going to take Green Bay, but it's beginning to feel that way in Green Bay right now. Indianapolis heading to Houston. I'm guessing Richardson's playing. He hasn't looked great though. But who do you got in this AFC South matchup?
I like the Texans. I think Joe Mixon coming back really helped that offense. I know we talked last week about Nico being out for his IR 4 week stint, and it hasn't completely derailed their receiving core. So I like the Texans. I think the Colts, their only chance of ever winning is when Jonathan Taylor's healthy. I don't know if we're going to see that this week. Maybe we will. But even if he does play, I still like the Texans. But the Colts they're in a weird situation.
Yeah, I agree with a lot what you just said. I think Houston wins this one. Indianapolis is just tough to tough to bet on at this point with how bad Anthony Richardson has looked. They got a lot of good talent, but I'm going to take Houston. They feel like a safe bet at home. Uh, this next one, New Orleans heading to LA to play the Chargers. This could be a game to see who scores 13 points. Who do you got in this one?
I like the Chargers just because of their defense and J.K. Dobbins. I think they're just going to run the both teams probably will just run the ball with Kamara and Dobbins.
Yeah.
And honestly, both teams have decent defenses, but I'm taking the Chargers just because they're at home, and I think they have a little bit better of a defense. And if Rattler's at quarterback again, they're not going to do much on offense.
No, I got the Chargers as well. The New Orleans Saints offense is just shredded with injuries. Buffalo heading up to Seattle. This is a pretty good game. Buffalo is actually favored by 3. Who do you got?
I like Buffalo. I think they're starting to play a little better, and I think Josh Allen just has that it factor. Not that I'm, saying anything crazy. A lot of people probably think that as well. Seahawks probably are going to be without DK Metcalf, and that's a pretty big loss because Lockett and Smith and Jigba are just not physical receivers. So being able to stem off of DK's physicality, I think, makes them, play up a little better. So, yeah, I like the Bills on the road.
Seattle for me has just been super Jekyll Hyde this year. Some weeks they look really good, some weeks they look really bad. I'm actually going to give the Seattle edge in this one. I think there's going to be a lot of hype going back home after their big win against Atlanta. Traveling cross country for Buffalo is tough. They did look good, but they beat a bad Tennessee team. I'm just going to take Seattle. This is a tough place to play. So I think Seattle knows they got to win these games early because I think they're playing with a lot of urgency. Seeing how the rest of the division is going, they could put away this thing pretty early. The longer they let this thing dwindle, the longer they let San Francisco hang around. So I think they're going to be kind of in kill mode for these next few weeks. Another one, kind of a stinker on offense. Bryce Young back at quarterback for Carolina, heading to Denver. This could be a very, very tough offensive game to watch.
I like the Broncos at home. I mean, they showed me something at least offensively against the Saints. And, a lot of what I say about the Saints defense is stemming off of last year. I guess technically I haven't really dug into the stats to see if the Saints defense really is that good or is, similar to last year or not. But at least the Broncos breathed some life into the offense with Bo Nix is starting to, it's another game with Bo Nix under center. Javonte Williams had had a really good game. The Panthers just really don't have a lot going for them, and that can be attributed to Andy Dalton getting into a car accident this week. I mean, it's like, what else can go wrong for this team?
Yeah. I'm going to take Denver. Pretty much the same reasons. I mean, Carolina's so bad. Not much you can do on top of that one. Also, they're coming off their mini bye, having the fact they played Thursday last week, so they're coming in rested. I think it's going to be bad. Kansas City going up against Vegas. I feel like we both know where we're heading on this one.
Yeah, I'm not betting against Mahomes again. Chiefs on the road.
Yep, I got the Chiefs as well. Don't need to really talk about that too much. Kind of already talked a lot of Chiefs.
Granted, I say I'm not betting against Mahomes. He's not had a good season, but he as the quarterback is 6-0. So whether he plays well or not doesn't matter. Chiefs on the road.
All right. What is supposed to be quarterback or the first overall pick versus the second overall pick? Let's see if it happens. Jalen Daniels obviously got hurt last week, but Chicago heading to Washington. 1 versus 2. Who do you have in this matchup?
Yeah, this would be so much more fun if we knew for a fact it'd be Williams versus Daniels. I guess we're not quite sure. I still like the Commanders at home. They are winning football games, and we got to see that even if Daniels gets knocked out, Mariota can run that offense. So that's really all I got. I mean, this could be a shootout. The Bears' offense is pretty good. The Bears also have a really good defense too, but apparently defenses don't matter when the Commanders are playing because they can just put 40 up on anyone. So I like the Commanders at home.
I pretty much have written down the same thing that you're going to say. A lot of offense in this one. I think Washington wins. I think Daniels does play. I think this is going to be a very hype game. I expect this to be a very fun watch. Give me Washington in this one. Going to Sunday Night Football, two teams that are going the wrong direction, need to turn it around greatly. Dallas coming off of their bye at 3-3. San Francisco, this game is in San Francisco, 3-4, coming off of that loss to Kansas City. They're going into their bye the next week. Who needs this win more? Who do you got?
I like the Cowboys on the road. I think Dowdell kind of solidifies himself now as running back one. And we still haven't seen that like crazy breakout performance from Dak and CD. If there is a time to do it, it's under the bright lights of Sunday night. The Niners also, like we talked about, I mean, they're lucky they can field a team offensively. I mean, Kittle's been in and out of the lineup. McCaffrey, we're still weeks away from. Jordan Mason, he's even been banged up here and there. And then the rest of that wide receiving core is just completely screwed when it comes to injuries. So, yeah, I don't like where the Niners are heading right now, so I like Cowboys.
I got a really funny stat that I actually kind of want to look up before I say it, but I'm going to take the Niners. Dallas has just been so bad this whole season. It's tough to pick them at all. Yeah, actually, I'll say it right now because it is true. In highlighted games, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, the San Francisco 49ers are 2-0 this season. When they're just playing in a normal Sunday slot, they are 1-4. So this game is in prime time Sunday Night Football. They perform at their highest at that point. Even with them being super banged up, I think they come in knowing they have to win this game. They can't go to 3-5 going into the bye. I think they'll take it as a big win going 4-4 into the bye with the amount of injuries they've dealt with. I think they win this. I think Dallas goes into complete panic mode after this. I'll take the Niners. I think Dallas Cowboys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, are just that bad this year. Monday Night Football, New York Giants heading to Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson, Sunday Night Football, or Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I'm taking Russ. I'm taking the Steel D. I'm taking their run game. Giants are a mess. Steelers at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take Pittsburgh as well. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones. I don't think he's going to have a lot of time to throw the ball. That's a wrap on Week 8 of the NFL, but we got college football to talk about now, and there is a lot of storylines, and this is a very, very strong week of college football games. I would highlight there is 13, 14 games we could talk about. We're going to break it down to just 7, but this is a great Friday and Saturday mixture of games and a key one for the college football playoff. James, I'll pass it on to you. I know you got some storylines that you want to talk about from last week heading into this week.
Yeah, I don't have too many. We didn't see any crazy upsets, Obviously, I'll get to. There were upsets, but it wasn't like, an oh my god Vanderbilt or NIU or anything like that. Anyways, first note I wrote down, Miami knows how to win close ones. This team is still ranked 6, I believe, and they're undefeated, so that's kind of funny when you think about it. Winning is winning, and if they win out, obviously they're going to be in the playoffs, but this team is interesting because I don't want to say they play to their opponent, but they're just not dominating teams like many thought they would. Cam Ward is ridiculous. He's such a fun player to watch, but we haven't seen that just like dominant Miami performance from offense and defense. I mean, Yeah, that's really all I got I got to say. Indiana's for real. They demolished Nebraska. I've yet to really watch Indiana play a whole ton. I probably should start tuning in. It's my mom's alma mater. She's not a sports fan, but she's talking about IU football. So to me, that's like, all right, maybe if Indiana football has reached a woman who doesn't follow sports, I should probably tune into this team and see what they're all about.
Yep.
I want to give a big salute to Army and Navy. They're both undefeated and both look really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And now the two big games from the week, which I'm sure you have a few thoughts on. So Tennessee overcame early struggles to take down Bama. They looked really bad in the first half,
Yep.
and they were able to come back and beat Bama. Bama fans are losing their minds. You hear clips on Twitter of Bama radio shows, guys calling in to their local, Tuscaloosa radio shows, just like fire DeBoer. This team sucks. Like Saban would never do this. Like what the hell? I mean, Tennessee's a good team. They're probably not the Tennessee that I was clamoring about even just a couple weeks ago as like the best team in the country when their offense and defense was looking unbeatable. But it's not technically it's an upset. Tennessee upset Bama, but it's not like a ginormous upset. So, Sean, what's going on with? I know you have some thoughts on Bama, so I'll let you go.
I think the most surprising thing is it just kind of talks to how good Bama's been since Nick Saban got there when he started there. This is the first time since year one of Saban's tenure that they have two losses before November. I mean, that just talks to how good Alabama was under Saban. The other thing, though, too, is the SEC is extremely loaded. And every year I get it is, but you got about, I mean, between Texas, Georgia, Bama, LSU, you can throw in there, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and, there's a few others. I mean, Ole Miss has basically been wiped out at this point, but there is six, Missouri, there's 6, 7, 8 teams that, can still make the playoff at this point. I'm probably missing one or two. I guess Vanderbilt still has a pretty good shot in a weird reality. I don't think they will, but I'm just saying they got a lot of teams that are still running and can run with anyone in the country at this point. It's just a lot of talent in the SEC, and Bama has finally come back down to earth. It's no longer the Bama where they can run out their third string team and beat anyone on a given day. All that talent because of the NIL is now spread out not only in the SEC but all over the country. They're no longer, 4 running backs that are all going to get drafted into the NFL. Those days are just no longer there. But it's more surprising of, if this wasn't year one of this 12-team playoff and we were back to last year where it was just 4, we'd be sitting here and we'd be saying Alabama has no shot at getting in. They're done. 2 losses with this situation. They're too buried back. But the fact of the matter is this is a 12-teams playoff. They can get in. They win out. They probably still get in. Tennessee's a very good team. It's at Tennessee. The loss looks bad, but it's overall not as bad. They still have that Georgia win. And Vanderbilt, still not a bad. I mean, it's a bad loss. It looks like a bad loss, but as time is going on, talking about a Vanderbilt team that could very easily be 7-0 right now, had the ball gone differently in the last plays of the game, the 2 games that they lost. So it's a lot. I mean, it's there's a lot going on there. So.
Yeah, there is a lot going on in the SEC, especially. Like you could have just an entire episode, article, talk show, anything just on the SEC football, and you get plenty of storylines for college football in general. It's crazy. So speaking of the SEC, we also saw. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say this real quick. I mean, it's amazing that. I mean, the jokes are, especially on Twitter and everything like that Lincoln Riley destroyed 2 blue bloods in a few years with Oklahoma and USC. But Oklahoma coming to the SEC, that's basically, I was making the joke early on that Oklahoma's become Iowa. They're not even Iowa. Like, they've like literally become Rutgers. Like, no one cares about Oklahoma. That's how good the SEC is.
Yeah, they've kind of taken a dump.
Yeah.
So after that Tennessee Bama game, we then got to see what we thought was going to be another great game. It personally to me, I didn't think it was that great. I mean, Georgia pretty much manhandled Texas. Um, Trevor Etienne scored 3 touchdowns, and I mean, I think the final score was like 30-15. Like it was, there were times when you're like, "Ooh, Texas got is back in it. They're down 7," but in my eyes, Georgia wasn't losing that game. Quinn Ewers did not look good and actually got pulled for Arch Manning in the first half. Um, yeah, I mean, that was Georgia basically flexing on Texas and saying, look, I know you're number one in the country, but we're still the big brother here in the SEC. So, what do you see from that game, Sean?
Yeah, my big thing walking away from that one was truly this was the welcome to the SEC moment for Texas. Up to this point, they played a Mississippi State team that is at the bottom of the SEC at this point, and then they played Oklahoma, which they play every year. So that while it was an SEC game, kind of not. I mean, I get they rolled Michigan early in the season, but Michigan's just turning out to be not that very good. So this was really, in a lot of ways, this was their first challenge. This was really their first welcome to the SEC moment. Looking at their schedule the rest of the way, they got Vanderbilt, which we're going to talk about here shortly. Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas A&M. Texas is still one of the best teams in the country, but this just goes to show you got to bring your A game every single time you go against these top teams. And this just kind of is a preview of how good this playoff is going to be, because that matchup's going to be like a quarterfinal matchup. That could very well actually be a first round matchup. It just kind of brings more hype to the playoff that we have coming up here later this year.
And not a good look by Texas throwing those bottles onto the field either.
Yeah, fine $200,000 on that one.
Yeah. Well, those are my notes. Let's get into those games to watch.
All right, we got a few. We got 7. We're going to kind of rapid fire through some of them, but all these I feel like have big playoff implications. We'll just start off on Friday night. 17 Boise State going to UNLV. Line is 3 on this one. Boise State really in the hunt for that last bid into the playoff. Who do you got in this one?
I like Boise State just because they have in my opinion, the front runner for the Heisman, Ashton Jeanty. The guy continues to just amaze. So until I see someone able to stop him, which I don't think UNLV is going to be that team, he's just going to run train on that Rebel defense. So I like Boise State.
I am very much the same. I'm taking Boise State. I just don't. I don't think UNLV's got it. They've been kind of trending a little bit in the wrong direction these last few weeks. So I'm going to take Boise State. I think they will win this one. This is definitely an elimination game. Very interesting. Happening at a neutral site. Number 12, Notre Dame, playing up against number 24, Navy. Those military schools are having a great year. This is an elimination game, in my opinion. Who do you have?
I'm going upset special here. I'm taking Navy. Notre Dame has a really good defense. I think that in college, part of your defense comes from your home crowd. And like you said, this is going to be played at MetLife Stadium. So I'm going to give a little bit of the edge to the midshipmen here just because they run kind of a quirky offense with that triple option offense. And I think Blake Horvath is the real deal. So, yeah, I don't know. I just, the line's not crazy. It's Notre Dame like minus 13. If I were betting on this game, I'd definitely take Navy plus 13. But, less than 2 touchdowns in a game where if you didn't know what was going on in college football, you'd be like, "Oh, Notre Dame, yeah, they're gonna they're playing a service academy, yeah, they'll crush them." Well, as Lee Corso says, not so fast. Navy. I think they get it done. I'm going Navy.
I'm going to take Notre Dame. The only reason I'm taking Notre Dame, I think they've been a little bit more challenged. Navy's been very, very good, but pretty weak schedule. Best win coming up against Memphis. That Notre Dame game against Texas A&M at Texas A&M, I feel like has them a little bit more prepared. I think they're a little deeper. And this is a matchup that plays every year. So I don't think they're going to be too thrown off by the triple option. They've seen Navy. They've seen Navy every single year, so they know how to prepare for them. I'm going to take Notre Dame. I think 13.5 is a lot of points. So I'd take the points with Navy, but I think Notre Dame's going to squeak this one out. But it'll be close. It's going to be a good watch in my opinion. Number 20, Illinois heading up to Eugene, taking on number 1 Oregon. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is a huge test for Illinois. They only have one loss. You see that 20 ranking next to their name, but going into Eugene and playing at Autzen Stadium is no joke. I think the line on this game was like 21 or something around there. It's probably going to stay around that. I think Oregon kind of, they put the Illini to bed and they win big.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think the line's insane, to be honest with you. Illinois, if you kind of look at their schedule so far, they've played everyone close. They've played a lot of ranked teams already in there. 7 games. I mean, they played a 19. Kansas beat them. Beat Nebraska 22, or number 22 Nebraska at Nebraska. Lost to number 9 Penn State at Penn State, and then beat last week at number 24 Michigan. So they've played a lot of good teams up to this point, a lot of ranked teams at the moment. I think the line is insane. I think it's a lot. I think Oregon wins, but I think it's going to be closer than people think. It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points for a number 1 Oregon team that the offense has got moments where it kind of falls dead. That defense, though, is really good. SEC matchup. This is definitely an elimination game in my opinion. Number 21 Missouri heading to Alabama. That place is going to be rowdy. Alabama can't lose at home to Missouri, can they?
No, I like Bama at home. I think we saw probably one of the worst games out of.
Milroe.
I'm blanking on out of Milroe, and I don't think that happens again. I think Missouri's kind of a fraud, to be honest. And after a loss to Bama, they lose their ranking and they go unranked. So I like Bama at home. They have to come back and play well, and the fans will definitely be on their ass if they're not playing well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. So I like Bama at home.
I like Bama as well. I mean, it's been 3 weeks in a row since the Georgia game. They went to Vanderbilt, lost, played South Carolina, didn't look good, then played Tennessee, and then lost that one. They have to come out with some fire in this game and put a stamp on it early. I'd be really surprised if they have this be a game in the fourth quarter. Alabama really needs to make some noise and show that they're a real contender. It would be weird to say this. They lose this week. They legitimately could drop out of the top 25. That is wild to say about any Alabama team. Another top 25 matchup in the SEC. Number 5 Texas looking to rebound, going up against that Vanderbilt team at 25.
Yeah, you'd mentioned Vanderbilt earlier. They're definitely much improved in terms of just an overall program. But Georgia is a different beast, and I think Texas gets back to their dominant ways. So I like Texas on the road. Vanderbilt already got their upset. It's not happening again. So give me Texas on the road.
I'm going to take Texas as well. I think they rebound and look good doing it. Number 3 Penn State heading up to Madison to take on Wisconsin.
So I haven't watched too much Big Ten football this year. I actually haven't even seen Penn State play yet. I know they have a good quarterback. Wisconsin can be tough to play sometimes. I don't think Wisconsin this year quite has it, so Penn State's got that number 3 next to their name for a reason. They're they're undefeated, and they're going to stay undefeated. So Penn State on the road.
I think Penn State wins it well. I think Penn State wins as well. Wisconsin 5-2, but they have a lot of wins against the bottom of the conference and just not such good teams, basically. So the only thing that's surprising, I'm surprised it's a 6.5 point line. It seems low, but who knows? Big Ten matchups up in the North sometimes get weird and no one can score. But I'll take Penn State. Another SEC, so a lot of top 25 matchups in the SEC this week. Number 8 LSU taking on number 14 Texas A&M.
I'm taking Texas A&M at home here. I've talked a lot in the past about how Kyle Field is a tough place to play, and I think Texas A&M is really good, and I think they show show the country that they're really good, and I think they beat LSU at home. So I like Texas A&M here.
Yeah, I like Texas A&M as well. I think Kyle Field is a very tough place to play. LSU's kind of stung. I just had a double check. It's still 6-1. Only lost to USC. Last minute drive on that one. Texas A&M, obviously their loss came to Notre Dame. We already talked about that. I'm going to take Texas A&M. I think this is an unfair elimination game. I think whoever loses this game tumbles down the rankings unfairly. And I almost want to say the winner doesn't get enough credit for this win. But I'm going to take Texas A&M. And, yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. So, good SEC battle on that one. James, before we sign off, any other final notes about football, everything going on?
Not really. It's fun that we're in that time of the year where NBA's kicked off, World Series starts in a couple days, or I guess tomorrow World Series starts. And obviously we got football going on, so just a fun time to be a sports fan.
Yeah, and as James said, we'll have World Series kicking off on Friday. Therefore, we're going to have a show tomorrow kicking off our World Series predictions as well. So tune in for that. Outside of that, guys, have a good October. Just a great sports weekend. Sit back, relax, enjoy getting ready for Halloween as you watch sports. Until then, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, actually.